Hello and welcome. Join me as we watch this man struggle to catch an abra after trying all day. Sad. And that's not the only thing he's bad at. He also has no clue how to animate a simple bouncing ball. And that's why
Today we are going to be animating a simple bouncing ball to start leveling up our base stats, which cover modeling, animation, texturing, lighting, sound, and story. The project rewards for this animation will grant us +1 XP in animation, lighting, and sound, as those are the fundamentals we will be focusing on today. Oh yeah, and did I say simple ball bounce animation? Why does it look so bad? Why does it change size? So apparently even bouncing a freaking ball was a challenge to my zero experience brain. After more than a few tries of wrangling with this damn ball, I can now understand that this slop was due to two core mistakes. The first mistake I made was watching result-oriented tutorials as a beginner. While knowing what buttons to click is important, I need to learn why to click these buttons in this particular order. The resource that I found accomplished this really well and that I will be referencing throughout this video was Alex's on Stories how to animate in Blender video. So definitely check that out if you want a more in-depth guide. The second mistake I made was feeling I had to do everything myself. I tried to learn concepts like timing, spacing, easing, and rigging all at once, which might not seem like a lot, but to a beginner's brain like mine, it was overkill. So I humbled myself and opted to use the free downloadable rig offered from the same tutorial. And man, I had no idea rigs were supposed to be this smooth. It's so buttery, I love it. With these mistakes in mind, let's finish the first project of our animation journey. Just a heads up, don't expect a step-by-step tutorial to create this bouncing ball. YouTubers like Alex on Story explains these fundamentals with more depth and patience than I am currently capable of. Instead, think of this as borrowing your classmates' notes on the day you miss class. It may not include all the nuances in the teaching, but it'll communicate the broad and applicable information. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is download the rig from Alex on Stories video, link in the description, and we're going to drag that file into Blender. Congrats, you have all the ingredients to create this animation packed in that little ball. To animate this object, click the rig and change object to pose mode. Okay, so what the heck are these lines and how do we use them? This bottom circle here is the move all control, which moves the entire ball along with the rig. This outer line controls the center of gravity, or cog for short. These arrows control rotation, and these pyramid things control squash and stretch. Okay, but why do we need to use all of these controls? Can't we just animate everything on one of them? Well, I tried that. Good luck managing those frames. Instead of placing all the information in one object, we can designate different controls to manage one property at a time. Which brings us to a workflow that has changed the way I think about animation. You see, initially I thought that animation was created linearly, starting with fully developing your first frame, and then the next, and so on. This quickly led to a chaotic workspace for me, as well as very dull results. Instead, I needed to approach this project with a layered workflow, which focuses on only one single control at a time. This made the animation process much less confusing and sharpened the end result. Okay, so let's start animating now that we have prepared for this hunt. I'm going to kind of speed through this to save you time, but Alex on Story explains these motions in a lot greater detail. Once you're in Blender, click 1 on the numpad to see the ball from a side view. Select the move all control at the bottom and click G and X to move our ball anywhere on the X-axis. While we are in this control, we are only going to think about what our animation should look like on the X-axis. Click I to set a keyframe for location and rotation. Now move your ball to where you want it to end up on the X-axis, and set another keyframe. Click V to change these keyframes to vector, select the last keyframe, click V again, but this time select auto clamp. We can now see that our ball moves from the indicated start to end point with a tad bit of easing at the end. If we wanted to adjust how much easing there is at the end, select the handles of that keyframe and select S to scale it. Now that we have the motion on the X-axis as we want it, we can start working on the rotation by selecting the arrows on the rig in pose mode. In animation, a lot of the work you've done previously can be reused and repurposed. For example, why not copy the curve we've worked on from our move all control and make it work for our rotation? First, copy the curve from the move all control, and in our rotation control, create a starting keyframe by clicking I, then rotation. Now paste the curve onto the keyframe in the graph editor. We've now successfully copied the curve from our x-axis control to our rotation, but we may want to change the speed of it. And to do this, we're going to Control A to select all the keyframes, and S to scale the speed of this rotation. To work on the y-axis, select the outer control near the middle and set a location rotation keyframe each time you want the ball to hit the floor. Now we want to set the keyframes for the peaks of the ball in between each impact frame. Click G and Y to drag the ball to where you want the peak of the jump to be. Then set the keyframe. Repeat this step for each peak, making each one lower with each jump until the ball comes to a complete stop. In the graph editor, vector the impact keyframes, then auto clamp the peak keyframes, and scale the handles to give the ball some more airtime. We are now ready for squash and stretch, which, in my opinion, was the most fun of all the controls. I mean, just look at this. It's so goofy, I love it. First, we're going to select the top pyramid on the rig. Set a keyframe on every impact, then on the frame before and after it. Then we're going to set the keyframes for the peaks. To make it easier to see exactly what frame the peaks and impacts are on, select your outer control, right click, and select Calculate Motion Paths. Now we can add our squash and stretch. On our pre-impact frame, move the control so the ball stretches across the motion path we're referencing. On our impact frame, squash the ball and position the control so it's ready for the next arc. On the post-impact frame, stretch following the same rules as pre-impact. Then at the next peak frame, click Alt-G to reset the squash and stretch, and then set a keyframe to return the ball to its base pose. Then on the frame of the next peak, click Alt-G to reset the squash and stretch, and set a keyframe. Repeat this for all impacts and peaks, and boom, you have an animation that looks like this. This animation is not perfect by any means and could have been made more accurate by using reference, but seeing the progress from my first ball bounce to this one was incredibly satisfying. Although we could stop here, I want to refine this animation further with light and sound design, as in the next video we'll probably be moving on to another project. This video is already getting pretty long, so let me show you how to turn this into this in less than 60 seconds. Shift A in object mode, add an area light above the subject, and play with these values over here. Then switch the render engine to cycles and add fake environmental lighting with an HDRI. To do this, just look up free HDRI on Google and download any one you like. To import your HDRI into your scene, go ahead and click the globe tab, then the green dot next to surface, select environment texture, and upload your HDRI. Now to work on our sound design, we're going to create an output and change the file type to FFmpeg video. Now drag the footage into any free video editing software. I'll be using Davinci Resolve. Download a free sound effect from online, drag it into Davinci, and use the waveform to line up your sounds with the hits. As a final touch, I'm going to add motion blur to my clip, and here is the final result. It was a lot of work, but with this, not only have we finished the first project on our animation journey, we've also gained one stat point towards animation, lighting, and sound.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this one was kind of scuffed, but I just gotta get in those reps, and I can't take too long to perfect each video. We gotta make progress. But nevertheless, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to catch you guys in the next one. Peace.